Hello, welcome to this channel. Today we will learn about the shocking secret that Johnny D. Mara and Chanel D. Mara accidentally uncovered, and how this explosive revelation could change everything in Salem as Sophia Choi's carefully constructed web of lies begins to crumble before their very eyes. The devastating discovery. Johnny and Chanel recently experienced what should have been one of the happiest moments of their lives, the possibility of adopting baby Tesoro, but instead found themselves blindsided by a calculated scheme that threatened to destroy their dreams forever. During a crucial meeting with their adoption social worker, everything fell apart in spectacular fashion when inappropriate text messages and steamy photographs allegedly sent from Holly Jonas appeared on Johnny's phone at the worst possible moment. The social worker had already received an anonymous tip claiming that Johnny was engaged in an improper relationship with one of his students, and when she witnessed the explicit photo on his phone, it seemed to confirm her worst suspicions about his character and fitness as a potential adoptive parent. The young couple was devastated by this turn of events, watching helplessly as their adoption hopes evaporated before their eyes. But something didn't sit right with Johnny and Chanel, and as they replayed the events in their minds, they began to notice inconsistencies that would ultimately lead them to a shocking conclusion. The timing of everything seemed too perfectly orchestrated, too deliberately designed to sabotage them at the most critical moment of the adoption process. Unraveling Sophia's elaborate scheme. The breakthrough came when Johnny and Chanel realized that Holly Jonas was hospitalized at the exact time those incriminating text messages were sent from her phone. This meant that someone else had access to Holly's device and was impersonating her in a calculated attempt to frame Johnny and ruin their adoption chances. As they pieced together the evidence, all roads led to one person, Sophia Choi, the teenage mother who had set this entire nightmare in motion. Sophia had been the mastermind behind not only the fake text messages and racy photographs but also the anonymous letter sent to the adoption social worker. That letter contained numerous damaging allegations and salacious comments about Johnny's character, painting him as someone completely unsuitable to raise a child. The sheer scope of Sophia's deception was breathtaking in its audacity. She had gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that Johnny and Chanel would never be approved as adoptive parents for baby Tesoro. Brady's confusion and growing suspicions. When Brady Black meets with Johnny and Chanel to discuss the situation, he finds himself utterly baffled by Sophia's extreme actions. Why would this teenage girl go to such dangerous lengths to jeopardize their adoption when, according to all available evidence, Tesoro isn't even her biological child? The DNA test results that Kayla Brady processed came back definitively showing that Tate Black is not genetically linked to baby Tesoro, which should have ended Sophia's connection to the infant entirely. This puzzling contradiction raises numerous questions in Brady's mind about Sophia's true motivations and the real story behind Tesoro's parentage. If the DNA test proved that Tate isn't the father, then why is Sophia so desperately invested in controlling what happens to this baby? Brady's investigative instincts tell him that something far more complex is happening beneath the surface of this seemingly straightforward situation. The paternity bombshell. As Brady processes the information that Johnny and Chanel share with him about Sophia's elaborate sabotage campaign, a stunning realization begins to crystallize in his mind. Perhaps Tesoro is indeed Sophia's biological child, but Tate Black is not the father as everyone had been led to believe. This would explain why Sophia continues to interfere so aggressively with the adoption process despite the DNA test results that supposedly cleared Tate of any paternity. The implications of this revelation are staggering for everyone involved. Sophia has maintained from the beginning that Tate was the father of her child, and both teenagers agreed to place the baby for adoption because neither felt ready for parenthood. But if Tate isn't actually Tesoro's biological father, then Sophia has been perpetuating a massive lie that has affected numerous lives across Salem. The real father's identity. Speculation is now swirling throughout Salem about who could possibly be Tesoro's actual biological father if Tate has been definitively ruled out. One strong theory gaining traction suggests that Aaron Green, Tate's best friend, might be the real father. Several months ago, during a particularly difficult time in their lives, Sophia and Aaron spent an evening together watching the premiere of the rebooted Body and Soul series. Both teenagers were feeling discouraged about their respective situations, and they found comfort in each other's company during that vulnerable moment. Shortly after that fateful evening, Sophia discovered she was pregnant, but she immediately assumed Tate was the father without considering other possibilities. It's entirely possible that Sophia had a brief encounter with Aaron that she either forgot about or dismissed as insignificant, especially if she was more focused on her relationship with Tate at the time. If Aaron is indeed Tesoro's biological father, this revelation would completely transform the adoption situation and potentially bring the Green family, including his sisters Kat and Felicity, into the picture as possible caregivers for the infant. Sophia's desperate motivations. Understanding why Sophia has gone to such extreme and reckless lengths to sabotage Johnny and Chanel's adoption requires examining her complex psychological state and her feelings for Tate. Despite the DNA test results proving Tate isn't Tesoro's father, Sophia still harbors deep romantic feelings for him and desperately wants to maintain their connection. As long as Tate believes they conceived a child together, they will always share an unbreakable bond, which is exactly what Sophia desires even though she knows the paternity claim is false. Additionally, Sophia never wanted to become a mother in the first place. Her plans for the future involved attending college and pursuing her dreams without the responsibility of raising a child. When she unexpectedly went into labor alone in her bedroom 3 weeks ago, she panicked because Johnny had already backed out of the initial adoption agreement, leaving her with no viable adoptive parents lined up. Terrified that her mother would force her to keep the baby and derail all her life plans, Sophia gave birth while watching a YouTube tutorial for guidance, then made the desperate decision to leave Tesoro at a fire station through the Safe Haven program. The dangerous escalation. In the coming days of our lives, Sophia's situation is set to deteriorate dramatically as the walls close in around her from multiple directions. Rafe Hernandez, who has been serving as Tesoro's legal guardian, will soon be notified about Sophia's shocking schemes against Johnny and Chanel, putting the troubled teenager in serious jeopardy. Sarah Horton has already confronted Sophia about the paternity deception after Brady filled her in on his investigation and the failed DNA test results. Spoilers indicate that Sophia will snap under the mounting pressure of her unraveling lies, and desperate people in desperate situations are capable of truly dangerous actions. There is growing concern that Sophia might attempt something drastic to prevent the truth from being exposed to Tate and Brady, who still believe her version of events. Some scenarios suggest she could even kidnap Sarah Horton to keep her from revealing the paternity secret, or potentially snatch baby Tesoro and flee Salem entirely. The adoption aftermath. With Sophia's elaborate web of deception finally exposed, the question of who will ultimately adopt Tesoro becomes more complicated than ever. Johnny and Chanel still stand as strong candidates despite Sophia's attempts to destroy their chances, their wealth, connections, and genuine desire to provide a loving home for the infant haven't changed. Now that the truth about Sophia's sabotage is coming to light, the adoption agency may reconsider their application with fresh eyes, understanding that the damaging allegations against Johnny were completely fabricated. However, other potential guardians have emerged who might have legitimate claims to raise Tesoro. If Aaron Green is confirmed as the biological father through new DNA testing, he might choose to step up and take responsibility for his son with the support of his sisters and the Green family resources. Leo Stark and Javi Hernandez have also been caring for Tesoro alongside Rafe and have discussed the possibility of adopting the baby themselves, though they worry their complicated past histories might disqualify them from approval. The coming weeks will reveal which of these Salem residents will become Tesoro's permanent family as Sophia's lies finally catch up with her. Sarah's impossible position. Sarah Horton finds herself in an extraordinarily difficult ethical situation now that she knows the truth about Tesoro's paternity. As a physician, she is bound by patient confidentiality laws that prevent her from simply revealing Sophia's secrets to Tate, Brady, and the other parties involved in this tangled situation. Sophia admitted to Sarah that Tate is not Tesoro's biological father, but she refused to identify who the real father actually is, leaving Sarah frustrated and helpless to correct the false narrative that continues to affect so many lives. This puts Sarah in a moral quandary. She knows that Tate is being deceived and living under the false belief that he fathered a child, but she cannot legally disclose the truth without violating her professional obligations and potentially facing serious consequences. Sarah must carefully navigate this minefield while hoping that Sophia will eventually come forward on her own or that other evidence will emerge to expose the lie without requiring Sarah to break her oath. The fallout for Tate. When the truth finally emerges about Tesoro's paternity, Tate Black will experience a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. On one hand, he will likely feel immense relief discovering that he is not actually a teenage father and that his future plans don't need to be permanently altered by this unexpected responsibility. The weight that he has been carrying since learning about the pregnancy and adoption will suddenly be lifted from his shoulders. However, Tate will also have to grapple with feelings of betrayal and anger toward Sophia for allowing him to believe this falsehood for so long. She permitted him to go through all the emotional turmoil of thinking he had created a new life, made the difficult decision about adoption, and formed a connection to a child that was never actually his. The revelation will fundamentally damage whatever trust existed between them and likely destroy any chance of maintaining their friendship or romantic relationship going forward. The investigation intensifies. As more people in Salem become aware of Sophia's deceptive behavior, law enforcement may need to get involved to address her increasingly concerning actions. The fake text messages, forged photographs, and anonymous letters she created to sabotage Johnny and Chanel's adoption could potentially constitute criminal fraud or harassment depending on how the authorities interpret her conduct. Rafe Hernandez, in his capacity as both a police officer and Tesoro's legal guardian, will be particularly invested in getting to the bottom of this situation and ensuring that justice is served. The broader implications of Sophia's schemes extend beyond just the adoption interference. Her willingness to manipulate evidence, impersonate others, and lie to medical professionals and social workers demonstrates a pattern of behavior that raises serious red flags about her judgment and stability. If she is capable of orchestrating such elaborate deceptions as a teenager, what else might she be willing to do when cornered? Salem reacts to the scandal. As news of Sophia's shocking scheme spreads throughout Salem, the community will be divided in their reactions to this explosive situation. Some residents may feel sympathy for Sophia, viewing her as a frightened teenager who made terrible choices in a moment of panic and desperation. After all, she gave birth completely alone after watching an online tutorial, then faced the terrifying prospect of being forced into motherhood when she felt completely unprepared for that responsibility. Others will be less forgiving, particularly those like Johnny and Chanel who were directly victimized by Sophia's calculated manipulation. They had their dreams of becoming parents nearly destroyed by her selfish actions, and the emotional damage inflicted on them during that adoption process cannot be easily dismissed or forgotten. The court of public opinion in Salem can be harsh, and Sophia may find herself ostracized by many community members who view her behavior as unforgivable. The next 2 weeks on Days of Our Lives promise to deliver explosive confrontations, devastating revelations, and life-changing decisions as Sophia's carefully constructed lies finally collapse under the weight of the truth. Will she face the consequences of her actions with maturity and accountability, or will she continue to spiral into increasingly dangerous territory as she fights to protect her secrets? And most importantly, who will ultimately provide baby Tesoro with the loving, stable home that every child deserves after being caught in the middle of this Salem storm?